Yesterday we used the onClick event handler to manipulate state of our component and show off stateful or declarative rendering, which was great, but I think we kind of jumped the gun with the onClick stuff. So let's take a step back and talk about just how React events work. React comes with a full event API where you define a prop, give it a callback. Those callbacks then get called by React synthetic event API whenever that event happens on your DOM element. This means that you never have to call addEventListener again. You never have to worry about whether you've cleaned up your event callbacks or not. Let's look at how to properly configure event callbacks so that you never have to worry about this keyword ever again. Yesterday we built a button that when you click on it becomes a larger button. We built that using this onClick prop that we added to the button HTML element, and that calls our this.onClick callback, but it's a function defined on our button class. It's defined as a fat arrow function, which means that this is immediately bound to the class that we're defining it in. When that's called, it updates state. Adding a mouse over, we can define the mouse over event as a normal class function. Background becomes red. You can also define mouse out. On click, button becomes big. Mouse into the button becomes red. Mouse out of the button, it becomes white again. We're going to talk about actual styling later. On mouse over, this isn't going to work. I mouse over the button and we get huge error saying that this.setState is not defined. Our function wasn't bound to our class. One option is we can say bind this. It works, it turns red. When we define mouse out by passing a fat arrow function directly into on mouse out, that calls this mouse out. When we mouse over the button, it turns red. When we come back out, it turns white, and when we click on it, it becomes a big button. These are the three styles you can use for defining callbacks on events. You can define your handler as a fat arrow function directly, which means it's always bound to this class. If you have your functions defined as normal class functions, then you have to make sure that you bind them to the object when you pass them into your event handler. You can then pass this down to children and so on, but we're going to talk about that tomorrow when we're going to talk about props going down and callbacks coming back up when you're building component architectures.